In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about all of the bombshell Bears-ness. I'll be talking baseball and basketball and hockey. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is going on right now, so make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, anything good happening lately? Anything big?
Oh, anything big, anything big, anything big. The Blackhawks were called Lucas Reichel, I believe.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that. That's pretty big.
Yeah, that is pretty big. Let's see.
Oh,
Let's see what.
the Bears signed Jacob Martin to play edge on a one-year
Oh,
deal.
good call, good call. Yeah, that was huge, massive, massive. There was you know, I think some other news sprinkled in
Oh,
over the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
past few days.
Yeah, the Bears released Roy Mabatika.
That was a tough day. I'll tell you. I had to go home and sob in a corner, and I had a couple of shots of Bacardi, and then I think a shot of, I believe it was Elijah Craig. I was too drunk from sadness when that happened. So
Well,
what are you
there
gonna do
there
there?
is the giant wide receiver edition that they brought in.
Oh, they brought
Dante
Dante Pettis
Dante
back.
Pettis
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Welcome back, Dante Pettis.
I don't even think
Was
he
there anything
played last
else?
year. That let me check the old ticker tape and see what happened here. Oh, the Bears traded a fourth round pick to bring in future Hall of Fame wide receiver Keenan Allen.
Oh, that's somewhat significant.
Yeah, that was fairly significant. Let's see what else. Um, oh, they traded Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a sixth round draft pick.
Oh, I think oh, did I miss that one? Shoot.
You know what? Nobody's really talking about it.
No, no one at all. There's no fights, there's no debate, there's no tireless narratives, no
No,
nothing like that.
there's no afternoon sports talk show hosts in Chicago telling people that he's going to be petty and he's taking receipts. No, none of that. Nothing's happening there.
Zero.
No, it's been just really chill and under the wire. Yeah. So Bears, the Bears news and the Bears fandom has just been uh, on fire the last couple days. And, you know, I'm going to start with I want to say thanks to Justin Fields for the time here. And did he get to the spot that he wanted to be or that we wanted him to get to? No. Did he get a fair shot? Also, no. And that sucks. And that's just the NFL sometimes. But he has been moved to the Pittsburgh Steelers for an absolutely horrible haul.
Did you read the latest report from Ian Rappaport today on how that trade went down?
I did not.
So this is pretty significant. And obviously, I think a lot of people were shocked about the lack of return, even though they saw the market somewhat dwindling. I mean, really, at the end of the day, was clearing room and doing right by Justin Fields. So this is what Ian Rappaport reported 3 hours ago. He says, important note on the Justin Fields trade. At least four additional teams inquired about trading for Fields, but Fields' representation asked for him not to be traded there. He wanted the Steelers, and the Bears did right by him. So Ryan Poles took less of a deal to send him to the Steelers to do right by him. That personally, from a personal level, that's real bro shit. Like that is it takes a real man of character to do that.
I would agree with that. I'm still
It
not
does.
happy as a Bears fan, but
No.
that's if that's the case, then uh, you know, much respect there because he deserved better than he got.
And I'm gonna say too that I really respect Ryan Poles for doing that. But there is part of me, not gonna lie, that kind of wishes, well, higher compensation would have been better for the Bears because the Bears will get a fourth round pick if he plays, I think, 51% of the snaps. And unless Russell Wilson gets hurt, that's not happening. Russell Wilson is QB1 in Pittsburgh. And the other thing, too, is we've traded away some draft picks. Obviously, we traded away a fourth round pick to get Keenan Allen. We traded away a fifth round pick to pick up the lineman from the Bills. So, you have two first rounders, but you don't have as much depth picks as you have in years past. And it does make you wonder, is Ryan Poles going to trade that ninth pick? I think there's plenty of speculation. And that right there is what people should be debating about. I don't want to see we're going to see it. We've already seen it. We're going to see plenty of, oh, what if they trade the number one overall pick and they take Drake May instead? I will say with 99.9% certainty that they're taking Caleb Williams first overall.
I mean, barring that dude, you know, I'm even gonna say if he gets caught smoking pot out of a gas mask, that still won't change it. Barring that dude getting in a car accident and having to wear one of those big metal halos, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that you make a move with Justin Fields like this if you're going to make this move, obviously. I mean, listen, you can look at the other quarterbacks in this draft, and if the Bears had the third overall pick or even the second overall pick, you could go out there and say, okay, here are your options. You have the first overall pick. Caleb Williams is the guy. This isn't Andrew Luck versus RG3 here. Like Drake May, maybe he ends up being good. Maybe one of the other quarterbacks end up being good in the NFL. And as we've said before on this show, the first quarterback taken doesn't always translate to automatic success. We know that. We've said it before. But right now, as it stands, in terms of the prospect rankings, it's Caleb Williams and you have the number one overall pick. It's really almost impossible for me to see them not doing that. And I think that there's another element to this too. The Bears want a certain kind of quarterback. Remember what Matt Eberflus was talking about during the combine? The
Yeah.
traits he wanted in a quarterback?
Yep.
And remember last year when they tried to see, can Justin Fields be a pocket passer? They forced him to be a pocket passer. We didn't see a lot of success in the pocket with Justin Fields. And what is the biggest key fact of Justin Fields and Ryan Poles? Ryan Poles did not draft Justin Fields. The previous regime did. So it makes sense to go after a guy that you want because they have the traits that you want. He also happens to be the number one prospect in the NFL. Coming into the NFL, I should say. So none of this is surprising, right? Like whether or not we wanted Justin Fields to stay, we should put aside the compensation for a sec. Like we had that feeling this was going to happen, right? Like we saw the writing
Yeah.
on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say that, like, I mean, I'm probably gonna get called the field cultist, but I was rooting for Justin Fields, and it was nothing against Caleb Williams, and I never had an ill will against him. Um, my concern with him had nothing to do with him and everything with the history of the Bears developing a quarterback. And that's not on him. That's on Joe Burrow would have had the same concern. Anybody. I was like, you know what? Justin Fields has overcome a lot of that. And I wanted to see him have a better offensive line, a better offensive coordinator. And, I recognize that Justin Fields was never going to be a top 5 quarterback, but could he be a top 10 quarterback with the right pieces around him? Yeah. I mean, there's way worse quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls and they've become, you know, the Super Bowl title suddenly makes them better than they are. I was, you know, I recognized where Justin Fields had limitations, but I also he never had the opportunity that Caleb Williams is about to walk into.
Well, there's a key thing right there is Caleb Williams is going to walk into a pretty good situation. You've built up your defense. You now have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore as your top 2 wide receivers. You have a future Hall of Famer and a guy who's coming off a career year, a guy who down in Carolina was limited by the stuff he had to play. So you're going to have that. You're probably going to have a better offensive line. You're going to have a veteran running back in DeAndre Swift. The one thing I think that still pisses me off.
Your offensive line is not set, but I think your offensive line has always, for the last 2 years, has been fine when healthy. They've just never been healthy. But you've added depth.
And you have Darnell Wright.
Yeah, so you've upgraded your depth this year. Not necessarily the frontline talent. At center, you probably have upgraded because it's hard to downgrade.
Right.
But you've got the other 4 guys coming in healthy, and you've got much better depth there. So that is a benefit. And you've added another tight end. So you've got 2 really good tight ends and a much better play caller who's coming in geared towards you.
Right, exactly. Shane Waldron versus Matt Nagy or Luke Getsy.
Yeah. And my concern again, it's nothing to do with Caleb Williams. He's gonna be a Chicago Bear. I'm gonna root hard for him, but it's the endless cycle of the Bears bringing in a coach, and then bringing in a quarterback later. And if this doesn't work out, then you're going to replace the head coach and then saddle him with your existing quarterback. And that's the cycle the Bears have been going through for how many years?
Yeah, and we've mentioned some concerns about Caleb Williams specifically, and we're not going to shy away. We did talk about it. We talked about some of the records against certain defenses, and there are obviously some chinks in the armor there. No prospect is rarely perfect, but
yeah, he's got a long history of fumbling issues. Like, he's not perfect, and
no.
And I'm not going to shit on him because you've got to be realistic about what you're getting. I'm not anointing him as the next Patrick Mahomes, because that's a disservice to everybody, because in the history of the NFL, there's only been one Patrick Mahomes. Just like there's only been one Tom Brady. That level echelon of quarterback does not come along very often. I mean, there's a handful of guys that are in the GOAT category of being an NFL quarterback. Dan Marino, if he had won Super Bowls, which I don't blame him, just didn't have a team around it, but Dan Marino was just absolutely elite. Tom Brady, elite and won a lot of titles. Patrick Mahomes, elite and is still winning a lot of titles. It's to put a guy that's never taken a snap in the NFL and put him at that level is just unfair pressure to him, unfair expectations. It's because there are a lot of people, and people can say, well, I just say plays kind of like him. There's a lot of people that are just typing Caleb Williams equals Patrick Mahomes on Twitter a lot. And those expectations are just unreal.
They're unrealistic. And I mean, let's, he's going to be the best prospect we ever had, right?
Like, yeah. And here's the funny thing. here's the funny thing is, let's just say best case scenario, Caleb Williams ends up going into the Hall of Fame. He could go into the Hall of Fame and still not be Patrick Mahomes. There's
Right.
going to be a lot of people, like quarterbacks, that go into the Hall of Fame that are not Tom Brady and not Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly. I mean, how many players have ever been compared to Michael Jordan in basketball? One. LeBron James, one. As much as we love Kobe Bryant and we love guys like, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Wilt Chamberlain, and you can list on and on. And those athletes are like some of the biggest athlete names of all time. But Michael Jordan was just on that tier above. And we really, when there's debates about the greatest basketball player of all time, it most of the time just comes down to Michael Jordan and LeBron, right? So you bring up a great basketball prospect and you say he's going to be the next Michael Jordan. Well, that's just unrealistic. I mean, that's where we are here with this. I mean, if you look at what Caleb Williams has been in college and, numbers wise, they're pretty darn special. I mean, 2022, that season, he threw 42 touchdowns, 4,537 yards. Last year, 30 touchdowns versus 5 interceptions, 3,600 yards. The dude's an absolute beast. There's absolutely no question about that. But as good of a prospect as he is, you're absolutely right. You can't put the expectations of Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or even Peyton Manning. Like, those are your top 3 quarterbacks of all time right there. And I think that it's important to remember, too, it's not all guaranteed. Now, should we be excited for Caleb Williams? Can we hope that he's going to be great? Absolutely. You don't want to put a name to a face that hasn't yet taken a snap in the NFL. And it's not, again, it's not putting Caleb Williams down. I'm fully ready to embrace the Caleb Williams era. It's just, we got to be careful, because what really hurt about the Justin Fields era ending for me, more than anything, is I had so much hope that night in 2021 when he was drafted. I felt like this was finally it. They got the guy. They got him. He's going to carry us to the promised land. He's going to be a great quarterback for the Bears. He is going to be here for many, many years. And it just didn't happen. Through a combination of the Bears team themselves and his own shortcomings. As you alluded to before, this is not a one or the other. And that's the other problem, too, is too many people make this one or the other. Either it was all his fault or the Bears completely failed him. You know what? The Bears situation for Justin Fields was really shitty. He came in with lame duck Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, bad offensive scheme, old, decrepit, expensive roster. Then you had to go through a complete teardown under a new regime where you strip the whole thing down to the studs. And then you had a better team, but you had a franchise trying to make you into something you were not. That's all on the Bears. And you can look at the games where guys dropped passes or he got no protection. There was plenty of that in 2022 when he got the ball and he was just on the ground, led the league in getting sacked. But you know what? There were times when he just wasn't good enough either. But we saw flashes of greatness, flashes of athletic plays that no other quarterback would make. And we saw some really elite, crazy good throws, especially to DJ Moore last year. But it was never consistent enough, and it just didn't come together. And the cold, hard facts are he never threw for more than 2,600 yards in a season. He never threw for more than 17 touchdown passes in a season. Again, not all his fault, but some of it is. And I really hoped in 2022, as much of a supporter as I continue to be, I really, really hoped that he would take a next step forward in a number of areas. And in some areas he did, but in other areas where we saw some problems, he just didn't. I have to be honest, he just didn't. We saw the fourth quarter turnovers. We saw some of the slow processing and the plays in the middle of the field, those short check down plays, those have to be better if you're going to be a franchise quarterback. We saw the athletic plays, the running, the deep balls, and what an amazing teammate he was. The guys loved him. He's got so many great traits and a lot of talent. it just never came all together for many, many reasons. And it's just sad because I thought he was going to be the one. And I will always be a fan of him. I will always, always, always hope he does well.
And also, I don't like people throwing the numbers out there because with the style of play that he played is you don't have like you can't apply the same type of numbers um, because that it's not the same as a standard pocket passer. Uh, you look at Lamar Jackson, like Lamar Jackson, um, not this past season, the season before that, threw for 2,200 yards and 17 touchdowns. The year before that, 2,800 yards, 16 touchdowns. The year before that, 2,700 yards, 26 touchdowns. Um, this is a an MVP player who's making like $50 million a year. So it's the difference between the two is that they built that offense around him and made it running focused, and then uh, and the Bears tried to force Justin Fields to be somebody he wasn't, and you know that's part of the problem. Is where Justin Fields struggled is if Justin Fields to me had come back and won games in the fourth quarter or had a better record, I think it's a much harder sell. Those the fumbling issues, the lack of fourth quarter comebacks, and the poor record. And I know you can't always blame the quarterback for the record, but
Yeah, the
th-
record I don't put on Justin Fields. They were clearly trying to lose 2 years ago.
but the fumbling and the fourth quarter collapses late. Those are the things that are tough to sell. The, he didn't throw in the middle of the field. Okay, some of that is him. Some of it is, look at nobody being open. Or like there was one where somebody's like, this is clear. This is why he was let go, and they're like, this is open all day, and no, it was to me like, could he have made that throw? Mahomes would have made that throw, but it it was a much smaller window
No,
of time than people were giving on the internet, because it's the way it was DJ Moore underneath and Cole Kmet stopped and turned, but there was a defender in between the two, and you really had to make that throw, because if you don't have that defender that's in the middle at least taking a step towards DJ Moore, he's going to break that up or intercept it going to Cole Kmet. You've got to get him taking a step and putting his momentum forward and then making the throw to Cole Kmet. And it's not as cut and dry as they made it seem, because there's the NFL has very tight windows, and had there been 4 more yards of distance between the two receivers, yeah, that's a much easier throw. It was part of that is the spacing that the offensive scheme had. Justin has to draw that guy down and make the throw, but the offensive scheme didn't help him out at all. Yeah, so the offensive scheme just didn't always support Justin, and Justin didn't wasn't able to overcome that. It's just a shitty situation, and I wish him the best. And I still wish the Bears would have got more compensation, because for a GM um, that talked about building through the draft, we're going into this draft with 4 draft picks.
Yeah, we are. Which, again, makes you wonder, are they going to trade down with that 9th pick? But I will say is they seem to have fixed a pretty glaring hole. Getting another, I think you still need more wide receiver depth, but trading for Keenan Allen was a big, big move.
It was a big move. I still think you need a early round wide receiver, like a first 50 pick wide receiver,
Hmm.
because Keenan Allen, as good as he is, has had some injury concerns, and he's a little bit older. Um, and he goes down, that that depth just drops precipitously. It goes, you're relying on Velus Jones and Tyler Scott and Dante
Yeah,
Pettis. So I still and I'm gonna say this is the fourth round pick for Keenan Allen. I think you could have, if you had a fifth rounder, I think you could have get traded the fifth rounder for it, but you didn't have one. Um, I so you trade the fourth. I would have liked to have seen them sign like a 2-year extension for Keenan Allen
that would be nice.
to spread that cap hit around. And I heard Dan Wiederer say that the report is the Bears are not going to consider an extension until, um, you know, sometime during the season.
Which
And
is fair for an older player.
yeah, but I think you could have given him you know, uh, a 2-year extension that gave him some level of, comfort and safety that he was going to be there, and was able to spread that cap hit out. And I know you're not in cap trouble. You still have got a good amount of cap space, but still $23 million for a wide receiver is quite a bit of money. So that would have been nice. Um, but like I still think you need to add a top flight wide receiver going into this draft. At this point now, you absolutely need a quarterback. So that goes pick 1.
Yep.
And then that number 9 pick, it's a toss up. I think they really need to add an early edge rusher and
Hmm.
an early wide receiver. The only way I can see this happening with um, the picks that the Bears have would be to trade back out of that 9 spot.
Right.
And if you trade back 5 spots ish, I think you could get, if that brings you back a second, I think you could get like uh, one of the second round level um, wide receivers in the draft, like AD Mitchell, um, and you could still get one of the big 3 edge rushers, either Latu, probably not Dallas uh, Turner, but probably Jared Verse or Latu at the 15 mark. So that's the only way I can see this happening. If the Bears address those 3 needs, quarterback, edge rusher, and wide receiver, I'm okay with them having limited numbers of draft picks. Um, you know, would it be nice to add a center? Yes. Would it be nice to um, add a blocking tight end? Sure, but I think you can re-sign Mercedes Lewis.
I was just say you can get that done in free agency.
Yeah, I would still like to see Mercedes Lewis back.
I
I
would
think that
too.
I think that would be a nice for a rookie quarterback. Um, but yeah, if you can address those 3 needs in the first 2 rounds, then I think you can walk away with this draft very happy.
So, I mean, just kind of looking at your hypothetical scenario, if you're looking from the Bears' ninth pick to that 5 spot, the teams there are 10 Jets, 11 Vikings, 12 Broncos, 13 Raiders, 14 Saints, 15 Colts. So I mean, you're just kind of looking at what options could be the most likely there. Because I mean, Minnesota is going to be trying to trade up
So
from what it sounds like.
Minnesota just got an additional first round pick from Cleveland. So they have 11 and 23.
Hmm.
They're going to try to move. I mean, that's not going to get them. I mean,
I'm not saying they're going to do it with the Bears. I'm just saying they're going to
Yeah.
try to
Well,
move up.
no. So yeah, they won't get one or two. I think the earliest they could get is three, but if they're going to go up to three from 11, they're going to have to send 11, 23, their second rounder, next year's first rounder, and probably a third or fourth rounder next year. I think it's going to be really expensive. That's a lot to move up to get the third best quarterback in the draft.
Yeah.
Um, going to 6, because I mean, let's Bears are gonna go Caleb Williams 1. I mean, Washington's gonna go quarterback. I just don't know who's their guy.
I mean, couldn't the top 3 would make sense for quarterback?
They make sense. Excuse me. Top 3 going quarterback makes sense, but I mean, let's say the third, Patriots are not in love with a guy. Um, you know, they they've got so many needs. If they don't want to take a quarterback this year, they're going to be a top pick. They're going to be a top 5 pick next year. So, maybe you roll the dice. Go, I don't like, I can't get Caleb Williams. I can't get Drake May. I'm going to roll the dice, go next year and just get a haul by trading back, or draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and be like, you know what, whoever our quarterback next year is going to have, a top flight wide receiver. They're kind of, it's a really early wild card, but the Patriots are a wild card there. And after that sort of hinges on it. If Patriots go quarterback, I think Arizona goes Marvin Harrison. The Chargers are a wild card. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, it would not surprise me if he went Joe Alt at offensive tackle and be like, you know what, we're going to set this up and we're going to run the football.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fully rule it out, obviously.
But they could also go wide receiver because they got rid of their 2 best wide receivers. I don't know. They're another wild card. I think the Giants would love to go quarterback here. But if they can't get their quarterback, then I think they're going wide receiver. Man, I mean, there's a lot of teams that need offensive linemen. Are they going to go offensive linemen? Because Joe Alt is really good. Talise Fuaga, the offensive tackle from Oregon State, is really good. J.C. Latham from Alabama. Troy Fatanu from Washington is really good. There's some Olu Fashanu from Penn State is really good. But then you've got the 3 elite wide receivers. Man, let's see. What would be good for the Bears is, because the draft is weird, is it could start going one direction, and then it takes one team to draft a guy, and then the run on that position starts. If nobody's drafting offensive linemen, then teams will be like, you know what, I'll wait to get my offensive lineman. But they see one offensive lineman go, and then they start going, the run starting, and then they just scramble to go. And if an offensive tackle run goes or a cornerback run goes, that just helps the Bears.
Yeah, true.
I'm just looking where I'm seeing mocks. Like Brian Thomas Jr. would be a good pickup. A.D. Mitchell from Texas would be a good pickup. They might go in the first. I think Lad McConkey scares me small.
He's a little lad. Does he do the little lad dance?
He's like 5'11", 180. That's little. Keon Coleman, I'd be all right with that. He might be there. That's that range that I think they've got to get into. Maybe a Troy Franklin. Um, those are those names that I think the Bears have to be in on. But yeah, I mean maybe if a quarterback falls, like if a Jaden Daniels falls, the Bears could sell that pick for a premium for somebody to move up, like a Broncos or a Raiders. I don't know. It's this year's draft is wild because there's so many wild cards in the early parts that could absolutely change the dynamic of this draft class.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if like what if Washington at 2 takes Marvin Harrison Jr.? Like that's going to throw a feeding frenzy and people jumping up to, you know, picks 3 and 4 to try to go for quarterback.
Oh yeah, that would really cause chaos.
Yeah. But like I said, is the three big weaknesses the Bears still have. Obviously quarterback because you traded your starting quarterback. And I Tyson Bagent is an ascending player, but I think he has you know, a real hard ceiling.
We're not even entertaining that.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not going in with him as a starter. Um, Mark Rippon was brought in, but he's not a legitimate. He's brought in because he knows Shane Waldron's system, and it's always nice to have a guy that comes in knowing your system, either a wide receiver or a quarterback. And
Too
you know,
bad because we can't call him Shane Rippin the Ripper.
I mean, uh, when Luke Getzey came in, he brought a wide receiver with him, and that's you always want to bring one of those wide receiver or quarterback in to help you with the establishing the scheme. So they're neither one of those are the realistic starters. So you're going number one quarterback, and then after that, you really need it. That defense is pretty stacked at this point. You've got a legitimate safety duo. You've got three really good cornerbacks. Your linebacking core is pretty top notch. Um, and Jervon Dexter was a very ascending player at the end of last year, and
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Billings was a pleasant surprise, and Montez Sweat was absolutely awesome. Is if you add one more edge rusher, this is could be a top 5 defense. So
Yeah, I
you
mean the defense is kind of where our concerns lies less. Obviously, last year we saw an improvement as the year went on. The addition of Montez Sweat obviously was a big boost for them that they actually had some pass rush. Obviously you want more, but you're looking at the offense versus defense and you see where the glaring holes are as you alluded to.
yeah, so they absolute need at edge rusher, second edge rusher, and I think you need a number 3 wide receiver that's on a rookie deal. That's not a project or a traits guy because Valus Jones and Tyler Scott were traits guys. They were like, you know what? They have a trait. Let's see if we can capitalize. I think you need a guy that is a real, actual wide receiver that's going to come in and he's going to be your number 3 guy this year. And if you don't bring back Keenan Allen, he steps up and is your number 2 next year.
No, I
Or
agree.
or he's a really friggin' good number 3 next year if you re-sign Keenan Allen. So I think those are your 3 needs. After that, I think you can plug away with undrafted rookies and uh, wave 2 and 3 free agents. Those are the 3 you got to walk away from. And I guess if in a draft like this, you don't have a lot of picks, not so bad. It would have been nice to have their second round pick. If you had your second round pick I'm very comfortable with where the Bears are, even if they only had 3 picks. If they were the 1-9 and their second round pick, I would have been like, you know what? You can fill your gaping holes and figure the rest out later.
Yeah, for sure.
You still have $31 million left, so you've got plenty of money to spend. And you're in the compensatory pick conversation now.
Yes, you are, which is nice.
I believe they would get a fourth rounder.
Fourth rounder would be nice. I mean, considering compensatory, if you get a fourth rounder, I that's not like a sixth rounder or even a fifth rounder. You could get something serious with the fourth round.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we are with the Bears. It's the draft is, it would be nice for them to, like I said, I think the most realistic spot for them is trading back, a few spots in that with that number 9 pick and recoup a second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you get your other wide receiver and an edge rusher, because I think one of those 3 edge rushers is going to fall. I don't think it's going to be Dallas Turner because people are going to compare him to uh, the guy from the Cowboys. I think it's going to be Jared Verse, and I do like Jared Verse, man. That guy is just an absolute power machine. And Latu, other than if Latu doesn't have that medical issue a couple years ago, that dude, that dude's an easy top 10 pick, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I would like to get a guy like him because then you really feel good about your defense.
Oh my God, if you could get a rookie that brings you 8 sacks.
Yeah, and then you have Montez Sweat, be pretty good.
Let's see, is there anything else Bears? Oh, yeah, you've got. I forgot about this. I wonder what Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus are going to do about the upset locker room about Justin Fields.
You know what? I'm gonna take this and say I don't think it's a big deal.
You don't think so?
I think they're professionals. I think they understand. And when Caleb Williams comes in here, and if he's looking and acting like a leader, they'll be fine. I think that it's natural to kind of be at an immediate kind of bummed out feeling, but Caleb Williams comes in here and they're good. Guess what? Winning cures everything. I feel like they're mature enough to understand it, even if they don't like it at first. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. And
Okay.
frankly, if it is, I think that's kind of immature, frankly. Grow up.
Okay. I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Um, because this my first and foremost desire is for the Chicago Bears to win.
Mm-hmm. That's what we all want.
And I'm hoping you're right in that the players winning cures all and they can win some games, because the expectations are going to be real high.
Oh yeah, yeah, especially with Caleb Williams coming on a more complete team than when Justin Fields was here.
Man, imagine he comes out and he just really has a bad rookie year. Bears Twitter is just going to melt down.
Like it already hasn't.
Oh, it's going to be next level.
It's going to be 2 Chernobyls on top of 1 Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be Caleb Williams is going to be under more pressure than anybody, truly, because When Justin came here, we gave him the benefit of the doubts of the patience. Year one, Andy Dalton was your week one starter, and Matt Nagy was a lame duck. Year two, you stripped everything down to the studs. He didn't have much protection, and by the end of the year, his number one wide receiver was Equanimous St. Brown. I mean, he truly, if you want to say, hey, I'm going to make excuses for Justin Fields, I will forever maintain that 2022, he deserved a lot of those excuses. Not saying everything he did was perfect and there weren't things to improve upon, obviously, because we wanted to see more of that growth in 2023. But, 2022, you were stripped down to basically nothing. And he was really the only reason it was worth watching that team that year. But, this year, you're going to have a better team than what Justin Fields had. And the one thing I wish we had a better head coach,
Yep.
but that is what it is. I wish we had someone like they have down with the Houston Texans, and how that team, that scheme went from absolute bottom of the barrel to a playoff team with a great young upcoming quarterback and winning a playoff game. I mean, that's what I want. Or I want, a team like the Chargers who goes out saying, you know what, we're going to make the big ball move and bring in Jim Harbaugh. That's what I wanted. But that's not what we got. And I don't know if that's going to cost him or not. I hope Shane Waldron is good enough to where Eberflus can just be the caller of the defense and the CEO of the team. That's really what I hope for. And obviously, Luke Getsy had the offense last year and, things didn't always go great. But Shane Waldron, we better hope that he's good, because it's going to be key not only for the Bears winning, but for the further development of Caleb Williams as we go forward.
I'm just looking at the still available free agent players, and two interesting names that are available, that if the Bears can't get that trade, or here's a odd situation. I mean, not an odd. I guess it could happen. Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze falls to number 9.
Mm-hmm.
I think if that's the case, you just go, you know what?
You got to take that.
You got to take it. And two guys that are available, this may not be the case by the draft, but Chase Young and Jadeveon Clowney. If either one of those guys is available, I would be totally comfortable giving them the prove it deal and seeing what you get, because Chase Young didn't have a good regular season last year, but boy, did he play well in the playoffs.
He did.
And Jadeveon Clowney had a really good year last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a guy that I was beating the drum about last year. I was like, he did have a good year the year before, 2 sacks, but I'm like, I think Jadeveon Clowney could be that guy when the Bears were looking for a 1-year edge rusher. I was like, I think Jadeveon Clowney, and I think Jadeveon Clowney would have been a whole lot better than what they brought in last year.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I think those are two names to keep an eye on. I mean, ideally, you would love to get, a legit edge rusher and a legit wide receiver in the draft, but you might be stuck.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But I mean, either one of those guys is better than Yannick Ngakoue. We got the worst Yannick Ngakoue ever.
Yeah, I was really excited about that move, but yeah, unfortunately it didn't work out and then he got hurt.
Yeah. But
I didn't even think he played that terribly when he was healthy, but he was hurt for much of the year. But even so, even when he did play, I'm not saying he was terrible, but he wasn't to the level we had hoped. But Oh well, that's in the past.
Yeah. So, what's next for the Bears? I mean, you've got the pro day for Caleb Williams coming up soon, and then your private visit with him where you'll get the medicals. Um, I'm not really concerned. I don't think we've ever heard of any sort of medical condition for him. And then I bet you're going to be a pretty quiet free agency period until the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And because I mean, you might. I mean, unless you get somebody that's valuable. I mean, maybe you'll get some bottom feeder type guys, 1 year of just above veteran minimum kind of guys. But you signed a middle of the road, like an average center. Got an average center. And you've got some interior depth. You've got some backup swing tackle signed. You got an actual U tight end, Gerald Everett. Um,
Welcome, Simone Biles.
Yeah, welcome Simone Biles. You Kansas City gets Taylor Swift, we get Simone Biles.
And the other Swift.
Yeah. We talked about that a little last week because you yelled at me for saying I'm going to get a Bears Swift jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if in the next few weeks you saw Mercedes Lewis resign. I'd still love that. I think he played at a high level last year, and I still think he would be a great addition for this new offense. But other than that, I think they're pretty quiet, unless something like a Jadeveon Clowney is like, yeah, I'll sign a 1 year, $10 million contract, and you go, you know what? Let's roll the dice. Even if we draft somebody, that's we'll rotate those guys in.
Yeah, it gives you a little insurance.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be pretty quiet, and it's going to be more arguing about Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, as relieved as I am, it's over. It's not truly fully over.
I was worried this would carry on, but it's over. It's done. And best of luck to Justin Fields going to Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Absolutely. He'll always have a fan in me.
Where do you want to go from here?
Well, we had another big trade in this city, not related to the Bears.
Go for it.
So, the White Sox traded away Dylan Cease to a team that I really wasn't expecting in the San Diego Padres. There had been a lot of rumors over the past year or so of him being linked to a team like the Orioles. They opted to go with Corbin Burns. We thought that maybe the Yankees would have a spot open, especially with Garrett Cole being hurt right now. Then talks kind of died down. Then they picked up again with the Yankees, and that didn't really go anywhere. And the next thing we knew, he was a Padre. And they get back 4 players in return, 3 prospects and a MLB reliever. The one pitching prospect, Thorpe, is a top 100 prospect, and the Padres number 5. And then the other, you had Savala and the one other pitcher, and they were in the top 10 for the Padres. I believe they're 7th and 8th prospects. Zavala is a teenager. He's more of a lottery ticket, but he's hit so far in his young professional career, so there could be promise there. You look at the numbers for Thorpe, they're really, really good. And he's not a stuff power guy, but he's kind of the changing speeds type pitcher that has guys off balance and is very effective with that. So we'll get your analysis too. I think it was a pretty good return for the White Sox, and I don't think that it should come to anybody's surprise that they traded Dylan Cease. I just thought that maybe at this point it was going to come at the trade deadline when teams might be more desperate. But you got a pretty decent haul. for Dylan Cease right now with the Padres. And, he has 2 years left on his deal. And we know that Jerry Reinsdorf was not going to re-sign him when his deal was up. And the White Sox are rebuilding next year. As much as Chris Getz wants to try to avoid using that word, that is the reality, is that they are in a transition phase. So we knew it was going to come. I just didn't think it was going to be the Padres. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be now, especially after other teams made other moves. And the Yankees basically said, yeah, we're in trouble, but we're not going to add anything else.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I agree with you. I did not expect the Padres here. Um, and but looking back on it, it does make sense because the Padres' top three pitchers from an F4 perspective from last year are all gone. Um, so you needed pitchers, a pitcher, and Cease is. We knew the Padres are under financial constraints because their owner said that they were looking to cut $50 million.
Well, and they took out that loan too last year. You remember that?
Yep. So you've got Cease under cost control. So okay, so this makes sense from their perspective. If you replace, missing starting pitchers with a guy who's under team control, and the return, yeah, they gave up a lot, but when you look at it from their perspective, is they kept all top five of their top prospects. Um, and uh, Thorpe Thorpe is the only one that was actually potentially going to have an impact on 2024. So from their perspective, you're like, okay, we're not missing out on a lot this year. It's where we kicked that can down the road. And uh, you got, Wilson, who did some relieving, but he's, um, he's nothing big. But Zavala is the guy who's the wild card. He's like 18 years old. He played low A last year. And for an 18-year-old in low A, the stat line is not terrible. 267, 420, 451 with 96 walks.
No, it's pretty good.
Um, he's got good bat speed and he played center field. Probably not a long-term center fielder, probably a corner outfielder, but he has played, center field. So, um, he's a potential for a 20 home run a year guy. So I if that guy works out, I think if you're the White Sox, you have to consider this a victory. Strengthens your farm system, and uh, you know Thorpe Thorpe is probably going to see action for you this year.
Yeah, very well could. I mean, I wasn't he involved in the Juan Soto trade?
Yeah.
So, and he's a bit more seasoned, obviously. He's been around the block a bit longer, so he's getting to be ready.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would imagine he's probably going to be a midseason call up.
Yeah, it could very well be. I mean, you know, look at the rotation right now. I take it you heard the news that Michael Kopech's being moved to the bullpen.
Yep.
So your rotation is
I'm not quite sure.
Tuki Toussaint, Chris Flexen.
Um,
Who's even because with Cease gone, like your main rotation is pretty much all gone because Lucas Giolito's obviously gone. Mike Clevenger's gone. Kopech's in the bullpen.
I mean, Soroka, Fetty, Flexen. I don't know if Crochet is going to be ready to be a starter at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I don't know. So Could we really be seeing Eric Fetty being their opening day starter?
I probably. Nick Nastrini.
Who's that?
He came with the Lance Lynn trade.
Oh, okay.
Um, I mean, I've heard Bob Nightingale is talking about them bringing back Clevenger.
Yeah, I don't know if Jerry put that out there or what, but I mean,
If
maybe.
if Nightingale had White Sox news, it absolutely came from Jerry.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, Clevenger hasn't signed anywhere, and probably if there's no real demand for him, probably won't cost you that much. So and weren't they also kind of linked to Michael Lorenzen a little bit too? I thought I read that.
Yeah, I heard that rumor. I don't remember where I saw it though. Oh, Ken
Would
Rosenthal reported that.
Well, that would make sense, right? You sign Michael Lorenzen, you get some starts out of him, and then come trade deadline, you flip him to a contender.
That makes sense.
I mean, that's one of those things where you look at this upcoming season and you say, okay, if you're not going to contend, who are your trade chips going to be? You did make a move for a number of veteran guys. You brought in Paul DeYoung, you brought in Nicky Lopez, Martin Maldonado, guys like that. I mean, you sign minor league deals too. I like, Kevin PR and Mike Moustakas isn't going to be really worth anything, but hey, maybe if Paul DeYoung is playing decently and you're ready to bring up Colson Montgomery, you can flip Paul DeYoung to a contender that just needs another bat. There's going to be things like that. Now, here's a question that
I'm going to throw an idea out there.
Okay.
It is a terrible one. Sean would never do this ever. I'm just saying if Jerry ever knows everybody hates him and Chris Getz can go, you know what? I'm a couple months into this job. I've got balls of steel. Let's sign Trevor Bauer to a 1-year deal and then flip him at the deadline if he pitches well. I understand that is a puke idea, but if you were looking at it purely baseball, you could see the sense in that.
Oh, for the White Sox, I mean, they wanted to get another guy and not pay anything, regardless of who the guy is.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer is, for what he says, is willing to come in for a veteran minimum. So you bring him in. If he pitches well, you've already taken all that heat. You're the White Sox. Let's reap the benefit. Let's send him to the Astros at the trade deadline. I mean, that is a real high risk move that could backfire all 8 different ways. But if it paid off, you could look like absolute awful people / geniuses.
Right.
I wouldn't.
I don't think anyone's signing him.
Trevor Bauer.
Now here's a question I have that people have brought up. Depending on your timeline, and I think I know the answer to this question, but some people have advocated saying, you know what? If you're going to tear down. Like, go all out. And by that, I mean also consider trading at the deadline Luis Robert. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they want to build around Luis Robert. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Gary texts me that all the time. Just they should trade Luis Robert already.
Just complete teardown.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because we don't know what's in Jerry's mind. If he's truly, because here's a couple of different things. Because Jerry clearly is not going to own this team long term. He wants it sold, definitely on his deathbed. But he might sell it before that. Like once he gets, if he gets this new stadium lined up and the construction underway, and he could just be like, you know what? washing my hands and walking away from this. That's a real possibility.
You know what
Now,
Jerry's gonna do, right? He's gonna split his soul into 7 pieces and put them into Horcruxes, so he could own the team forever.
one of the Horcruxes is going to be Hawk Harrelson.
He's gonna slither around like Nagini.
uh,
No, let's play. Okay, what would the 7 Horcruxes be? Number 1 is Hawk Harrelson. That's one. Number 2, I want to say Tony La Russa, but that'll be like Harry Potter. Like he didn't mean to make that Horcrux. It just happened.
David Eckstein's contract.
Literally like the printed out piece of paper that by now is like crumpled and been thrown out and coffee stained on it. It's now a Horcrux of Jerry Reinsdorf. So that's 3.
The let's see what else. What else would be a good Horcrux?
Oh, are there any artifacts of a Branch Rickey that are like? I'm sure I've been to the Hall of Fame, but I can't remember if there's any Branch Rickey artifacts in the Hall of Fame. But there is. I feel like that would be one of them.
Chris Sale's cut up jersey.
It's just in a box somewhere, like Indiana Jones, like just packed away somewhere in a giant warehouse. Jerry digs it out, and it's one of the Horcruxes. I feel like the World Series game-winning ball has got to be one of them, right?
Maybe.
We'll include that one. So what?
Let's just go. Let's just go. Branch Rickey's Hall of Fame plaque.
Okay. That'll work. That'll work. Okay, so we got Hawk, Tony, Branch Rickey's plaque, game-winning baseball. We have. Oh, what was the other one you just said?
Branch Rickey's plaque. Chris Sale's cut up jersey.
Chris Sale's jersey. That's 5. We need 2 more.
Whatever evidence Lurie Garcia had over them to keep that contract for so long.
Oh, David Eckstein was 6.
David Eckstein with the Lurie Garcia PP tape.
Okay, that's 7. Okay, there are Horcruxes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the ways you could go, I guess, with the White Sox is you could get that new stadium at least in place, if not built, and have the team have no payroll. So a new owner could come in and shape the direction whatever they wanted. Or that's one direction. 2, you could try to stock the farm system as much as possible so you can sell this team on a winner, or sell somebody on a future winner. And or the rebuild, the complete rebuild. Like these are the directions you could kind of go in with the White Sox to, what do you think is going to be the best position to put you in to maximize your profits when you sell the team?
Yeah, and I think you got to stop the whole thing with constantly signing ex-washed up Royals, but, they're kind of committed to the bit right now.
I mean, it is funny. I'm not going to lie. It's got some good legs.
It does. I mean, didn't you see like there are people on Twitter like keeping like charts and graphics of like how many ex-Royals the White Sox have signed?
It is funny. I've seen the chart.
And it's like, wow, they're really growing that chart over the past few months.
I mean, it is funny that the Jerry, like out of all the teams he could try to emulate, it's the Royals.
Yeah. And they have signed a $100+ million contract before you.
True.
which
True.
is nuts. A team that just came off over 100 losses in the Royals.
Oh, the Royals and the White Sox ties. Yeah. So I have no idea what this team is going to look like. I mean, if you don't look at their pitching, you just look at their hitting. Like, okay, this team might be able to score some runs. Nothing crazy. They're not going to be the Braves or the Dodgers, but this team might be able to score some runs. But then you just look at the pitching and like how are they going to compete with this rotation and this bullpen? How are they planning to compete?
Well, they may say they're trying to compete this year, but they can say it.
Yeah, but it's just not going to be real.
Because I mean that the thing is, like, we can debate on how good or effective Chris Getz is going to be. I want to give him a chance, and I do feel like the moves he's have made have at least prioritized something that the White Sox have lacked for years: fundamentals, defense, and just, you know, pitching depth. But just not coming out and saying this is what it is and trying to, trying to compete. It's like, be real here, dude. Don't bullshit us around because, yeah, they want to go out and try to prove people wrong. And yeah, you play in a god awful AL Central where a team that has no business competing can stay hanging around in a race longer than they deserve to. That includes the White Sox. But you got to be real here.
Yep.
And you know what? Maybe some of these guys do have big years. You know, Yoel Moncada might have a big year. I know we say that every freaking year, but you never know. If Eloy Jimenez is healthy, which again is a massive what if. Um, Luis Robert can continue what he did last year. Andrew Vaughn grows a little bit. I mean, you have some pieces in that lineup that can be legit. It's just you don't have the pitching and you don't have the depth.
Yeah, uh you just don't have the pitching. The pitching, no matter what, the starting pitching is so thin and has so little depth that I don't know how you're not going to be a bottom feeder team. Even if you're like realistically there is a path for you to have a decent offensive team. Moncada has a good year. Eloy has a good year and stays healthy. Luis Roberts stays healthy. Um, Benintendi finds some of his power stroke. Like, okay, like there's a way. I see a path. You could sell me on it that okay, I see this path, but that pitching is just so thin. I I I don't understand where you go and how you even finish the season without just throwing anybody that's got a working arm out there at some point. Because
Right.
best case scenario, you have um, that your five starters that you have on opening day, if they stay healthy all season long, no missed starts, no nagging injuries, no major injuries. Um, it's it's that's best case scenario, and it's a bad one. But you're going to have guys that get injured along the way, or get sick, or whatever, bumps and bruises, soreness, and it just, whew,
Yeah, right. You have to go through the wear and tear of a full 162 game season.
yep,
But I mean, we know what's coming. We know that this team is not built to win a World Series this year, and it's not going to come to a surprise. I'm just curious to see how this team performs in this situation. Like, is Eloy Jimenez, if he's healthy, is he going to be more relaxed? Is Yoel Moncada going to hit like he has in spring training? that's what you just wonder. Because, like you said, you can sell on the top White Sox guys being real positive, offensive performers. It's just, the depth also really isn't there. But if you have several guys that could slug home runs and get on base, well, that won't make you an absolute bottom feeder offense like, say, Oakland probably will have, but um doesn't mean you're going to win a shit ton of games.
Yeah, it's a they have not set themselves up for success this season.
And I think that's by design. They just don't want to come out and say it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Did you know that Mike Moustakas is still in camp with the Sox?
I didn't.
They just signed Brad Keller too. You know, the Brad Keller that got into it with Tim Anderson with the bat flip a few years ago?
Oh, that's a message, isn't it?
I mean, that feels like trolling at this point.
Jerry's not above it. Jerry's not above it. All right. Should we switch to the other side of town?
Sure.
Um, I'm feeling good about the White or the Cubs.
Right now, I mean, I know this doesn't mean anything, but the offense is humming. Like, Bellinger's hitting, Suzuki is hitting the living daylights out of the ball. You see some good things from prospect arms. Ian Happ came back today, had a double. That's good to see. Christopher Morel is hitting. You're seeing a lot of good things. And Shota Imanaga you see how many strikeouts he has this spring?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's missing a lot of bats. And again, it's spring training, so we'll see how it translates to the regular season. But, so far, there's a lot to like in Cubs camp. Now, obviously, you have growing pains with some prospects, but that's to be expected. That's not a big deal. We know that's part of the game. But I think that the overall vibe is pretty good. And I still kind of wish they would try to make somewhat of a move to grab a Jordan Montgomery, but I don't think that's going to happen. Jameson Tyone being hurt obviously is a bummer, but it looks like it's just going to be next man up in this situation.
Yeah. And, I'm going to butcher his first name. Sadahev Sharma from The Athletic has really been, saying he's honest that he thinks that Seiya Suzuki is going to be in the MVP conversation this year.
That's a big ask for him, but he's looking pretty darn good so far.
And I know that they've kind of set the stage for Michael Busch is the first baseman, and it's his job to lose. And on the one hand, you're like, man, it's a lot of expectations. He's young, and I'm sure he's gonna have growing pains. And what if he fails? But honestly, the Cubs should have made the playoffs last year, and the first base was an absolute mess for the Cubs last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Eric Hosmer, Trey Mancini, Matt Mervis. So the bar is not very high for Michael Busch to be an upgrade over the three of those players.
No, and you know what? I think there's another player making a case for himself big time to be part of that platoon, and that's Garrett Cooper.
Yeah.
He kind of quietly came over as a non-roster invitee. He's had a nice career. Like, you look, he can hit. He's not a big power producer, but the dude can hit. And he's been hitting in spring training too. So, if you kind of go with somewhat of a Busch Cooper platoon, maybe that could be something decent. I'm not saying it's going to be world beating, but hey,
No,
maybe it's your
you're
Randall
just
Simon Eric Karros duo you had in 2003.
yeah, all you're looking for is an upgrade over what you had last year. Just you're like, okay, we're taking steps here. And first base, you got nothing. Just absolutely nothing.
No, the only time he got something is when Cody Bellinger played there.
Yeah. But Cooper slash line this spring training, and you know, spring training stats don't mean anything. I think we've proved that time and time again that they
Mm-hmm.
don't mean anything. But just seeing him swing the bat nice is 300, 417, 650.
Yeah. A couple of home runs. He had an absolute blast the opposite way last week. That was good to see.
Um, but here's Sharma's quotes about Seiya Suzuki. The bet here is that Seiya Suzuki is about to embark on an MVP caliber season. I already made that prediction at the end of last year, but consider this me doubling down. Suzuki has all of the traits one looks for in an elite bat. Lack of chase and swing, or lack of chase and swing and miss, along with plenty of hard contact. And now he's both comfortable and confident facing MLB pitching. It feels like a real breakout season is coming.
Hey, you hope so. You saw the second half of last year and you're seeing what he's looking like so far.
Yeah,
You
and
just
like
hope
I
that's a
said,
sign of things to come.
is I don't put any stock in spring training stats, but he's swinging the bat super good. I mean, he's slugging almost 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, I don't. It's the stats are one thing, but if you actually just sit and watch him, like the swing looks quick, it looks smooth. He looks there because I go back to the first few months of last year when he was struggling and he had to get benched. I think that it was more than just mental. I think it was mental and physical. I don't think because remember he started last year on the IL. He got hurt in spring training.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he was 100% even when he came back. And then when he had that chance to kind of sit down and take a breather, I think he was able to reset physically and mentally.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that helps. The baseball is an odd sport because it is such a long season that
Mhm.
it gives you time for those nagging things. Like football, you get a week to reset and um, and you reload 3 hours and then you get a week to reset. And baseball is just those nagging injuries compound, and it's a sport where even when you're successful 30% of the time, that could put you in the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
It's it's wild. So there's just I mean, it's a mentally tough game and just such a long season that players players just need a break. And we didn't see that back when I was younger. It's just players played through, but you know, with how much players train in the off season and have their bodies in these peak shape that you can't operate on optimal performance 365 days a year.
Right.
Your body just can't do it.
Yeah, that's why depth is more important than ever.
Yep. Um, so I'm looking at uh, Patrick Mooney put together his roster projection for the Cubs. Let's see. Hap, Suzuki, Bellinger, Morel, Swanson, Bush, Horner, Gomes, Amaya, Talkman, Wisdom, Mastroboni, Garrett Cooper. Um, Justin Steele, Hendricks, Imanaga, Wicks, Smiley, Assad, um, Alzale, Neris, Merriweather, Almonte, and Leiter Jr. Seems like that's not the right number. Mm-mm. I don't see a Wesneski in there. Is he making it?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's clearing up a little more.
Yeah, and I mean there's things to figure out with this depth too. I mean, obviously with a guy like Nick Madrigal hurt, that opens up a spot for potentially a Garrett Cooper. Matt Mervis was just sent down, so we know he's not going to be on the opening day roster. I mean, really, it's a matter of, okay, are we going to see Miles Mastroboni on the roster? I think we will. Will we see Patrick Wisdom? Will we see Garrett Cooper? I mean, those are the things we're trying to fill out that bottom spot, assuming everybody else is healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if if they don't play him a lot against left-hander starters, then um you probably have Wisdom and Cooper in at DH and first base. Uh I wonder what's going to happen with Canario.
Yeah, I wonder that too. I mean, I feel like, when you look at the outfield, if you have a healthy Ian Happ, and, we came back today, it's been made clear that Mike Talkman's going to make the team out of camp. So there just might not be a spot for him right away.
And he does have an option.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Have we got a word on how when Tyon's going to be back?
Uh, I know he's kind of ramping back up, so I don't think it's as serious as we'd hoped, but I'm not sure if there's an exact timeline. But I think we're just going to have to go into the season knowing that we're going to have to makeshift a few things.
Do you want to talk Hawks and Bulls at all?
Well, we haven't talked much Bulls, and I have to say that the Bulls the past few weeks, they've been interesting. I'm not saying they're great, but they've been interesting. And we've seen DeMar DeRozan have some really crazy games. Did you watch the game at all when they were in Indiana? The overtime game when Kobe
I,
White got hurt?
I just saw bits and pieces.
Because I mean, talk about just taking over and owning a game late in the game and in overtime. DeMar DeRozan still has some pretty damn good basketball in him. And for a guy who's getting older, and it's been fun. It's been fun to watch him play. And the Bulls have won a few crazy games. You had the one game where the coaches and the opposing team is getting into it in, I believe that was against Utah. Um, they won that close game late. Um, Obviously the Clippers and the Mavericks have absolutely kicked your ass, but they had a pretty successful road trip. Like I said, the Indiana game was fun. You won the other day without Kobe White and like the other half of your team. So it's funny. The Bulls are like one of the best clutch teams in the NBA. Have you seen those stats?
I haven't.
Like they're legitimately one of the best clutch teams in the NBA. It's just it's how they usually get there. Down big, have to come back. They had that big comeback the other week. And then, they get the job done late. Like that's been their MO. Fall behind, come back and win. And if you don't come back, you're getting blown out cuz the Mavericks and the Clippers, they did not come back and they got blown out. So, it's a very weird team that at times has been very entertaining, I must say. But they're still the Bulls, and I still don't expect them to be anything more than losing in the play-in tournament, which really doesn't get you anywhere. But if that's what you are, at least it's somewhat entertaining at times.
You know, like it's weird because we talk about them as a whole. I mean, not just me and you, but I'm saying like Bulls media and fan collective. We talk about this like it's the biggest dog shit team out there. And that's not the case.
No, it's not.
It's they're just, as the kids would say, mid as fuck.
They're mid as fuck. It's what's truly dog shit is the situation they're in.
Yeah, because you don't like I don't know how this team fits together. and you've got a contract decision to face with DeMar, and he's going to want a lot of money for an older player, and he's at some point he's just going to hit a wall or start getting injured.
Right.
It's just the reality of it, and it's not a knock on him. It's just father time wins every single time,
Mm-hmm.
every single time, undefeated, and so you're going to invest a lot of money with him, and you invested a lot of money in your center, and he's had a pretty rough year this year.
Yeah.
Even if the you know it's if you look at some of the numbers, you're like, okay, this is not bad. But you look at his 3-point shooting and you look at his defense, and you're like, that's where he gets you
Well,
right
it
there.
just drives me crazy when he can't pull down rebounds in certain situations where you're like, dude, you're right there. Just pull it down.
Yeah, so I just don't want a Vooch situation with two players.
I agree. No, I'm with you.
And we have Kobe White, who looking like he's going to be a dude coming up, but we need more consistency from him. And Io, we've seen some amazing things from Io. And then
He had a
sometimes
great night the other night. He scored 30 in it for the first time ever.
sometimes he just fades into the background like a wallflower. And that's the problem with this team is it's a one man show every night. And who's the one man?
They're
Who's turning it?
consistently inconsistent and they end up half and half, 500.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. And so they're firmly entrenched. They're going to make the play in, but it just there's no way they're going to compete with the top teams. Um,
No, I mean, even if you get past the playing tournament, guess what? You're going to go to Boston and you're going to get your ass kicked.
yeah. Um, so it's it's just it's just like an exercise in, oh yeah, we're gonna get a we're gonna get a playoff game, and then boom, we're out. We're out.
Jerry Reinsdorf gets to laugh at his little extra revenue.
Uh, yeah. So what are the NBA standings? Let me look at the NBA standings. So the Bulls are pretty. I mean, man, they are pretty firmly entrenched in that number 9 spot, because they're 4.5 games behind the Sixers, who are in the 8th, and there's 3 games up on the Hawks for that 10th spot,
Mm-hmm.
and they're at 68 games. So there's not that many games left. So you're probably seeing them at 9. Um, so that means they would play Atlanta for the opportunity to go. Um, so they would, yeah, so they would be playing Atlanta in that play-in tournament.
Which you could conceivably win.
Yeah, and then you could win that. And then so what is the winner of that um goes on to play the loser of the 7 and 8 place.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be between the Heat and the Sixers. Do you feel confident you could beat the Heat and the Sixers?
No.
No,
I mean,
I don't either.
it's just it's all just
Yeah, I don't feel confident that you could beat either of those teams. And so then, and even if you did, then you would go on to play uh, the Celtics.
Yeah. And you're not winning that series.
So you would have to go on a nice little run to go get your ass kicked by the Celtics.
Yeah.
Huh. Yep.
That's what it is.
Oh well. But the Blackhawks. It's funny. I tweeted about this today, but you look at the standings, and they're a bad team. I mean, they are a really bad team,
Mm-hmm.
and they are. Jeez, how far? I mean, we're coming on the end of the season here. They don't have that many games left. And they've got 43 points on the season, which is like less than a 32% win rate. And they are they are 2 games behind San Jose, 2 wins behind San Jose.
Even after
San,
beating them today? Or
yes.
was that the previous standings?
I'm on Tankathon. So the San Jose has 39 points and the Blackhawks have 43.
That time without Bedard was really dark.
It was. Let's see.
I mean, there was really no reason to even watch that. And you knew it was going to be bad and it was bad, but hey, now at least you're beating up on the bad teams. You beat the Sharks today, you beat the Coyotes twice, and you're kind of having some fun doing it. Bedard is going off, he's scoring a lot of points. Um Obviously you played the Kings, a good team, and you got your butts absolutely whooped, but the Kings are very good, so weren't really expecting to win that one.
Yeah, I'm looking at NHL.com and the Blackhawks are 4 points up on San Jose. But they've also played one more game than San Jose.
Yeah.
So was there 82 games in the season? The Blackhawks are at 68. So it's a race. And I know it's a lottery of who gets that number one pick, but man, the difference between number one and number two in the odds of getting the number one overall pick is almost double.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty significant difference because only um at a certain point no a team can't win the number one overall, so only the worst 11 teams can make it. So those and the last couple teams, their odds of getting the number one overall pick, because you can only move up 10 spots. So in the lottery, teams 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, if they were to hit, they they would move up their 10 spots, and then San Jose would get their number one's pick. But it's it'll be interesting. I would
Mm-hmm.
love to see the Blackhawks win it back-to-back years.
That would be something if that happened.
I would laugh a lot.
I think there'd be a lot of laughing in Chicago and a lot of not laughing everywhere else. Let's
Oh my
just
God.
say that.
It it would it would definitely make people stop talking about Justin Fields on Twitter.
Yeah, it would. It would for a little bit, for a brief time, but we cherish that brief time.
It would be a nice respite. Uh, Trying to think, is there anything else going on in Chicago sports here?
Oh, just the countdown to opening day, and it's you gonna be doing any brackets this year?
I'm assuming I will. I have not watched any college basketball this year. So I'm sure I will do one.
Your guess is as good as many's.
Yeah. Reichel got an assist today.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Maybe he
Oh,
figured things
also,
out.
before we end the show, I do have to give a shout out to my Illini who won the Big Ten tournament today. Great win, great job. That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations to them. Hopefully they can do something in the tournament.
Yeah, I hope so too because they've had some good teams the past few years and they have just completely flopped in those first few rounds.
Yeah, I haven't even let's see who got the number one seeds. UConn, North Carolina, Houston, and Purdue.
Yeah, Illinois is a 4 seed. So, pretty good.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this Gonzaga McNeese State game. It's gonna be a doozy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, as well as this Creighton Akron game. I love a good Creighton Akron rivalry.
Who doesn't?
Some other see there are other good ones. Um ooh, Illinois facing Morehead State.
I don't even know who Morehead State is, honestly.
Wait, Illinois is a 3 seed.
Oh, they're a 3. I thought they were a 4.
They're a 3 seed
All right.
playing in Omaha.
Okay, somebody texted me that 4, but I think they must have read it wrong. So I
Yeah,
didn't look at the detailed brackets yet.
yeah. So they are they are in UConn's bracket. So let's see. If they beat Morehead State, they would face the winner of BYU and Duquesne. And if they won that one, they would probably going against Iowa State. It's actually a fairly winnable bracket up to, until you get to UConn. Um, Northwestern is in this the East too. They are Northwestern will be facing Florida Atlantic. Yeah, let's go Illini.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for where DePaul is seated. Not seeing him. Think there's
Hmm.
something wrong here.
Hmm. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know.
Oh my blue demons are terrible.
Yeah, they had many glory years,
Yeah, when I was a child.
just like the Bears.
wait, wait, way to poop in my swimming pool.
Yeah, yeah. I uh I threw up on your pizza. I Bills fan puked all over your favorite pizza.
Uh, I a friend of mine went to my daughter's musical the other week, and we went out to dinner beforehand, and he's like, I showed a friend of mine Bills fan puke, and he I was like, yes, it's spreading. It's spreading.
Oh, that is unfortunate. And I feel responsible for that. And I'm honestly kind of ashamed.
What if Bills fan puke started trending on Twitter?
Oh man, that would be a tragic day in America.
I want to find that dude and bring him on the show. Ask him all about that day. Where
Oh.
did your life go wrong?
Oh man. Uh hey, there's one more thing I forgot to mention by the way. Have you been obviously you post the episodes, but you obviously know you're keeping track of our show numbers, right?
Yes. Yes. We've got a big one coming up.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we've got a big one. And I was meaning to ask you, like, what should we do for this? Because if you guys have any suggestions of what you would want to see on episode 500, we can make this happen.
I wonder if we can bring on some of our old friends. I know people are busy, but maybe we could bring on a few people and say, hey, you want to come to a segment or something? I don't know. We'll have to discuss it, but we should definitely do something special.
Yeah, I think it would be cool.
Absolutely.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope, I think I've said my piece.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down